If you are a desperate man, you cannot make a choice. You have given your choice away to your pain, to your fear. And the sad thing is most men don't know they're trapped in that. So check this out, guys. First cold day of the fall 2018. I'm so happy. Probably gonna start ice bathing today, but start out today with a run in the rain, 47 degrees, with that wind just blasting me. Makes you feel good. But I just got back from that, and I want to welcome you to what we were doing last Wednesday. And that is, we were doing an MD Excellence call. If you want to know more about that, check the show notes down below. And if you can't afford that, check our free stuff, our challenges, all that stuff. Get dialed in on men's development. But today we're talking about desperation. All right, how about we switch? Let's go. What's happening, people? We're live on our Wednesday night call. Steve Mayeda here, and we're dropping some wisdom, or hopefully wisdom, on a situation about desperate men. And part of this is because we were talking about desperation and the types of decisions guys make when they're in a desperate mode, especially when it comes to sex and relationships, which is what a lot of us talk about. Now, there's a lot I want to talk about here on this Wednesday night call, and we're not quite getting to it, but there's this concept of what a weak man looks at as a strong man. And I want you to understand this, because we fall into this trap over and over again. In men's development, you hear it all the time. You hear about what a strong man is, but coming from a weak man, a man who hasn't experienced much with life, a man who hasn't challenged himself, he hasn't come out on the other end, maybe a man that's been hurt a lot, or maybe he's experienced some things, but he's moved into points of pain or points of confusion or points where things aren't really making sense for him. But what he looks up to and what he idolizes, what he chases, is based off of pain. And this is where we get into this definition of man and masculinity. And this is actually where we come to the topic of tonight. We were just talking to a gentleman. He's going through a breakup. There's a lot of confusing times that always happen in a breakup, but one thing that's guaranteed, especially if you didn't want that breakup, is pain and regret. It's actually two things, but there's that pain and regret. And when we have that pain and regret, and we're in a situation about our definition of who we are, we want to pick the opposite of that so that we alleviate it. You know, that's our answer to getting rid of this stuff. Our answer to getting out of the situation that we are in our life, that we built, that we allowed, that we opened the door for, no matter how much that person is flawed or screwed up or whatever it is to pick the safest thing for us, the safest thing to get us out of the pain that we feel most. And that pain is emotional. That pain is mental. And so we start saying the same things, right? A desperate man, what does he ask for? He asks for the opposite of what he's feeling. So he says, man, I'm getting older. I'm running out of time. I've lost my chance. I had the perfect thing, but I lost it. And the reason why I lost it was because of my actions and da-da-da-da. That is the voice of guilt speaking. And then we look at another guy who might say this other thing. When we look at that, the cause, the reason, as men, we're always looking for a definition as to why we feel the way we feel. And we're going, man, Jesus, this happened because she was bad, or she was a narcissist, she was a psychopath, all these different things. Funny story, or maybe not so funny, but really amazing how this stuff happens, is 6 years ago, I was in Australia speaking for the 21 convention, and I met a girl there, and we remained friends, and she just messaged me, and she said, I've been dating a narcissist, and he's a drug addict, and he's a psychopath, and all these things. And he was explaining all the things that he did. And I said, hey, you gotta stop. Don't worry about him, stop categorizing him. And we went into a little bit of a different discussion, but men get into the same thing of the blame, the why they're there. That's all that pain talking. And there's no doubt you're justified by that pain. You might have regret, you might have blame, you might have doubt, you might have confusion, you might have all these things which are true and valid, but they're not going to help you. They're not a part of the solution. This is what's important, is see, if you're a man and you're challenging yourself, you're going to run into this. I'm probably going to run into this again. I may have some insight on it because I'm not in that pain. But if I'm in that pain, I'm going to want to get out. And I need to count on people around me. This is why it's awesome, man. We got 14 guys on. It's 10:25 on Wednesday night. We got 14 guys on talking about this, because the guarantee is that, yes, at some point in our life, we're all gonna feel a little bit crazy, but that's why we talk to one another, because we're not all crazy on the same day. And if we're around a group where we're talking about excellence and being better, it's very easy to see those things. We gotta be able to communicate and trust one another. This is huge for men. There needs to be more of this. A Reddit group with anonymous handles ain't gonna cut it. A brief meetup, once in a while or with our best faces on ain't gonna cut it. Men's excellence is about us knowing each other and caring about our lives, being involved with our lives and sharing intimate, important things. You know, us affecting one another, knowing one another is so vital to it all. And so when we get to this, we gotta be able to notice or call somebody out. It's not out of like some, you know, I'm calling you out, you motherfucker. It's more like, look, you gotta understand that when you're speaking from desperation, you mix things up. You start to see the solution as just the opposite of your pain. And pain shows you where the problem is, but it doesn't show you the solution. You start to see the solution as a fantasy, and you start to move into that voicing of a desperate man or that voicing of a weak man, and you start building up a fantasy of the strong man's weak man. We see this over and over again. Guys falling in love with the image of whatever's the opposite of their pain. The image of alphaness, the image of integrity, the image of a moral high ground, especially if you have regret over your sexuality or who you are, the choices that you made in a relationship, which are being cited by somebody else as why that relationship's not working. But the thing about this is that we got to realize that we may be thinking that. It's okay to think that. We're gonna think that. But the real solution's going to come with us stopping to react so much. Exploring who we are, exploring first the reality of that pain. You know, what I tell everybody, and they're always super resistant to it, and I am as well. I've just done it so many times. I have a little bit more faith in the process, and that's experience. You know, we were talking about confidence the other day. Confidence isn't puffing your chest out or talking louder or even standing up for yourself. Confidence is having enough life experience to give you the ability to not freak out every time something goes wrong so that you can be yourself and say, hey, you know what? I gotta say this. I know who I am. The only way you're gonna know who you are is if you've lived in your skin enough. And so we gotta get to this point. We have to get to this point. If we're in that pain, if we're going through a breakup, if we're in a point of distress, we need to go into that pain. And this is super important. Everybody's so resistant about this. What do you fear? What if it is true? What if it is true? Is that you blew your chance? You'll never meet somebody like that before. What if you are alone for the rest of your life? What if you can't? What if you are the person that is incapable of being able to raise a family? What if you are the person that can never be loyal, can never keep your word? What if you're the person that always lets people down? See, these are things that I've thought about myself. These are things that have been told to me by many women in many different relationships. That sounds shitty, right? And also when you're me and you've lived my life and I've had relationship after relationship, and at one point I could have them at will and all this stuff, or so I thought, but I believe that about myself. And the truth of it is that I failed in my relationships. But it wasn't until I went into that pain, it wasn't until I accepted that fear and the acceptance of that I can't do this. I am wrong, I have failed, I am weak, you know, what if I let us down? What if this happens to the rest of my life? As soon as I was able to accept those negative beliefs that were reality to me, because if you looked at my reality, they were true. Man, I couldn't hold a relationship. I let people down. I went back on my word. I hurt many people. I promised so many times that I would do something and I'd fuck it up. As soon as I was like, well, I'm that guy. So many of my clients, when I tell them that, say, but then I'd be giving up, but then I'd be weak. That's the weakest thing. I gotta be strong. I gotta be bigger. I gotta be a man. No, I'm gonna go with what this guy says, and I'm gonna fit the image of masculinity. I'm gonna pick the strong man to a weak man. I'm gonna pick the guy that's a puppet that I'll never know, that's a fantasy, so that I can have some faith in myself because I don't wanna feel what I feel. And those are those guys that 5 years, 10 years down the road are still in pain. Those are the guys that become addicted to self-help. Those are the guys that go in this huge cycle because they haven't faced their fear. When you face your fear, and for me, I was just so desperate. I remember when my buddy Dave told me, I was just like, man, this is terrible. I can't do that. And he's like, well, just try it. That's actually what he told me. He's like, well, just try it. I mean, I did that, not for your specific situation, but it allowed a lot of things to just kind of chill out. And that's exactly what happened. And I did change. And the funny irony of that story is, and this is so fucked up, and still, year after year goes by. I mean, I think when Maria and I were together for 2 years, I was saying this, but probably after 6 months. I mean, I'm so self-involved, it goes in that way. But even after we've been together for 6 years, of the guys in the dating scene, of the guys even in the men's development self-help industry, not just the dating scene, how many of them have relationships? And you know what, it doesn't make you any better or worse if you have them, but I think it's an interesting demographic of why we don't have them. About how many men hold on to their shadows and not looking into their fear. And like I said, there's pros and cons of being in a relationship. There's all these different things. But at some point, everybody wants one. And when you're that guy that always fails at it, and when you're that guy that has something in the back of your head saying, I want this, I want to live that way, whether it's a relationship or a certain type of win or a focus on your career, and you can't get it, please dive into that fear. See what happens when you accept that that may be the reality for the rest of your life. And the reason why this works, and perhaps I didn't get into this enough, is when you remove that blockade, the real expression, the real feelings, the real emotion, the real beliefs, the real fucked upness that's being held behind that wall, protecting it of saying, I'm gonna always fight to never face my biggest fear. When you remove that out of the way, those beliefs come out and you can work on them. And that is the hard part. That ain't easy. See, this is why we need to be around men, and this is why we need to be around people that can tell us the story of what it means to be successful while being who you are, while striving for your goals, for striving what you believe in. And if we're not around those men, what do? We don't pick reality to guide us. We pick the weak man, strong man. We pick the puppet. We pick the lie, we pick the fantasy, and we pick the opposite of our pain, and we go in a big circle that moves slow enough to never let us see that we've dug ourselves deeper and deeper into that hole. Any case, I'm out of here. You want to talk to more of those people, get involved with our authenticity challenge or whatever it is that's going on, but check out the links below. We're a tight group. We're a lot of people. And hey, if this wasn't good enough for you, watch more videos. Later. There we go. I think I got it.